Hello, here we go again with another little video presentation for the members of the Shutterbugs photographic group. This is a special request, and this is on what is termed color popping. So here we go. Now, what is color popping? Color popping is basically when you get a black and white image and you bring out the color in one or two details. And in my opinion, I'm stressing the one or two because it can easily be overdone. For some reason, red is a very common color to people to choose to pop, and for me it would be a mistake to color pop all the red flowers in this photo, but each to their own. You do how you think it best, but in my opinion it's much more effective if just one or two features are popped. So just a little bit of background. Back in the good old days, if you wanted to color pop something, you would print the black and white print, and then with little bottles of dye and a tiny paintbrush, sometimes literally only 2 or 3 bristles thick, you'd paint in each and every feature and bring out the color in what it by hand in what it is that you're trying to pop. Now, if we try and emulate that in digital form, it doesn't work so well, and we'll have a look why. So first thing to do is to duplicate the layer. So Control and J gives us 2 layers exactly the same. If we turn off the top layer, that's what we've got. If we turn the top layer back on, that's what we've got. So they're identical in every way. So let's activate the top layer and turn that into a black and white. So we can go layer, do a new adjustment layer, and come down to black and white. Or there is a fairly complicated shortcut key. Now this is almost identical in Elements and in the older versions of Photoshop. In Elements you don't get quite so many choices, but you do get some presets to kick off things with. So in here we can adjust these sliders, and you can see they have a profound effect. If you look at the geraniums, you can make them come almost black. So I'm not going to really dwell on this. Let's just play about a wee little bit. Turn this up. If we adjust the blue, watch this pop down here, change color, turn up the blue. So that becomes very, very dark indeed. So anyway, you can play about with those to get the black and white more or less how you want it, and then click merge, and you'll see that this adjustment layer disappears because it's now become part of the top layer. So once we've got this, we'll see what we can pop. Let's zoom in a bit. So Control and plus zooms in, and I will just show you what happens if we paint over something, but it's really not very effective. If we select the paintbrush tool, and if we choose a geranium red and we paint over, say, this flower, oops, you can see that all the detail vanishes and it just becomes a red blob, which really isn't very effective. So let's do Control and Z to get rid of that, and let's look at another way. A better way is to use the erase brush. Now you can set the size of the brush up here, the opacity of the brush, and the flow. You don't need to worry about too much. The hardness, I would suggest around 50%. If you use a very hard brush, you get razor sharp edges, and it really doesn't look very very true to life, shall we say. So with the erase brush, if we just, and I'm just going to do this quick and dirty, I'm not going to take too much time, but if you really concentrate and maybe even zoom in a bit more, you can do right up to the edges of the flower. And one little hot tip is let go the let go the clicker on your mouse pretty regularly, because if you make an oops, let's make a bigger oops, you can see I've overrun here, and if you control Z you can go back through those two oopses and not undo all the work. If you keep it the mouse key click down for the whole project, then if you do an oops, it's going to, if you step back, it's going to undo everything. So there's one flower, and I would say again, for me, I wouldn't attempt to bring in all the flowers. I think that, to my taste, doesn't look good at all. And in fact, in this, I might have just been a bit controversial. I might have just done the frog, because the frog might be something that you didn't see before, and when that's in color and everything else is in black and white, then that'll stand out. Now there is another way we can do it, which I'll do for the plant pot. If we use this selection brush tool and have snap to edges, again we can set the size of the brush here, but if I wanted to do this plant pot, this is a much quicker way to do it. We just select the pot and it snaps to the edges, and by and large does a pretty good job. For these bits where it's overrun, if we do hold down the Alt key, we can just paint those out. It's getting a bit confused by the shadows here, and let's just overrun there a tiny bit. Anyway, you can take your time on that, but once that's all selected, just, you might have to do this not snapping but anyway, once that's all selected, if you just hit the backspace key, then it deletes all that, and it's much quicker than trying to paint it all with a little brush. And once you've done that, then Control D for deselect, and let's just zoom out again. Now again, just to reiterate, I would not be, for me, I would not be popping 3 things in there at all, but that's just to give you some food for thought. And once you've done all this, or even before, you can of course do the cropping even while the layers are there, so you can crop in how you want, and it'll crop down through both layers. And then when you're finished, you can either export it how it is, or if you're going to print directly from Affinity, then you can flatten the image, and that means combine all the layers together. So to flatten it, you go Document and Flatten, and now you can print that directly from here, or you can of course save it as a JPEG, or I should say export it as a JPEG. So that's more or less it for this one. Any questions, please feel free to email me at the address on the website, or WhatsApp me. So that's it for this one. Happy popping, and maybe in next month's competition in the monochrome we'll see a bit more popping going on. But again, in my opinion, don't overdo it. It's something that can easily be overdone. Okay, that's it for this one.